The 7-foot giant grabbed the nurse by her throat and lifted her off the ground like she weighed nothing. Her feet kicked the empty air. Her small hands clawed uselessly at fingers thick as steel cables. Blood vessels burst in her eyes as her windpipe collapsed. Doctors watched frozen. Police stood helpless with guns they couldn't fire. And this tiny black woman, this rookie everyone said would wash out in 2 weeks, did something nobody expected. She stopped fighting his grip. She wrapped her legs around his waist, and she slammed her forehead into his face so hard that the crack of his nose breaking echoed through the entire emergency room. The giant dropped her. He staggered backward screaming, and Maya Johnson, 5'3", 110 pounds, landed on her feet like a cat ready to finish what he started. Before we continue, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel and stay with me until the very end of this incredible true story. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel across the world. Now, let me take you back to the beginning of the night that changed everything. Did you hear about the new traveler nurse? Dr. Kevin Mitchell's voice carried from the break room at 9:47 p.m., loud and careless, dripping with the arrogance of a man who had never been told no. He was leaning against the coffee machine, his white coat perfectly pressed, his Harvard Medical School pin catching the fluorescent light like he wanted everyone to see it. "The black girl," Dr. Park answered, stirring his coffee. "The tiny one?" 5'3", maybe 110 pounds soaking wet, Mitchell laughed, and 3 residents laughed with him. I asked HR what they were thinking. You know what they told me? Diversity hire. Apparently we needed to hit some quota. More laughter. What's she going to do when a real emergency comes through those doors? Mitchell continued. Ask the meth head politely to calm down? Read him his horoscope? The laughter grew louder. None of them knew Maya Johnson was standing just around the corner, her back pressed against the wall, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She heard every word. She always heard every word. Maya closed her eyes and counted to 10. She thought about walking in there. She thought about telling Dr. Mitchell exactly where he could shove his Harvard pin. She thought about mentioning that her diversity hire application included 6 years of military service, 4 combat deployments, and a bronze star she kept in a shoebox under her bed because she didn't like talking about the night she earned it. She didn't do any of those things. Instead, she pushed off the wall and walked toward the nurse's station, her white sneakers squeaking softly against the linoleum. Pick your battles, baby girl, her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. Save your fire for the fights that matter. This wasn't one of those fights. Not yet. Johnson! Patricia Walsh's voice hit Maya like a slap. The charge nurse was 52 years old with a face like weathered leather and arms that could have belonged to a longshoreman. She had been running Mercy General's emergency room since before Maya was born, and she had a particular talent for making new nurses feel like insects under a magnifying glass. Yes, Patricia? Where have you been? I've been looking for you for 5 minutes. I was checking on Mr. Henderson in bed 7. His oxygen saturation was, I don't care about Henderson's oxygen. Patricia thrust a clipboard at Maya's chest. Bed 4 needs a catheter setup. Doctor! Mitchell wants it in 3 minutes. Think you can handle that without screwing it up? Maya took the clipboard. Yes, Patricia. And stop hovering over patients like some kind of ghost. You're making everyone nervous. Yes, Patricia. The charge nurse turned away, already barking orders at someone else. Maya stood there for a moment, the clipboard pressed against her chest, her jaw tight. 3 shifts. She had been here for 3 shifts, and already she was the resident punching bag, the too small, too quiet, too black nurse that everyone assumed would wash out before her 90-day contract ended. They didn't know her. They didn't know where she'd been. They didn't know what she'd survived. Maya walked toward the supply room, her mind already cataloging what she needed. Foley catheter, 16 French, sterile gloves, antiseptic wipes, drainage bag, lubricating gel. She could do this setup in her sleep. She had done it in her sleep, actually. In a field hospital outside Kandahar, with mortar rounds exploding close enough to shake dust from the ceiling, with a young sergeant screaming because shrapnel had torn through his pelvis and his bladder was filling with blood. That sergeant had lived. Maya had held him together with her bare hands and a prayer until the medevac arrived. But nobody at Mercy General knew about that. Nobody here saw anything except a small black woman with a traveler badge and a quiet demeanor. They saw what they wanted to see. Maya reached the supply room and pushed open the door. Well, well, the new girl. She stopped. Dr. Park was leaning against the supply shelves, arms crossed, that smug smile on his face that she had come to recognize as his default expression. He was 28, a second-year resident, convinced that his medical degree made him God's gift to healthcare. "It's Maya," she said flatly, "not new girl." "Whatever." Park didn't move from his position, deliberately blocking her access to the supplies. "You know there's a pool going. Betting on how long you last. I've got $50 on you crying and quitting by the end of the week." Maya stared at him. "Dr. Park, I need to get supplies for bed 4. Dr. Mitchell wants a catheter set up in..." She glanced at her watch. 2 minutes now." "Then you better hurry." He still didn't move. "Unless you want to explain to Mitchell why you couldn't handle a simple task." Something shifted in Maya's expression. It was subtle, a slight narrowing of the eyes, an almost imperceptible straightening of her spine. Park didn't notice it, but if he had any experience at all reading people who had seen real violence, he would have stepped aside immediately. "Dr. Park," Maya said, her voice dropping half an octave, "I'm going to ask you once to move. If I have to ask twice, I'm going to file a formal complaint with HR for workplace harassment and obstruction of patient care. And then I'm going to mention to the nursing union rep that you've been making bets on staff turnover, which violates about 6 different hospital policies." Park's smug smile flickered. "I'm also going to mention that you've been taking extended breaks in the supply room, which is why the inventory counts have been off for the past 3 weeks." Maya tilted her head. "Did you think nobody noticed the missing Adderall?" The color drained from Park's face. That's not..." "Move." He moved. Maya stepped past him, gathered her supplies with quick, efficient movements, and walked out of the supply room without looking back. Behind her, she heard Park's shaky breathing. She allowed herself a small smile. Pick your battles, but when you fight, fight to win. Dr. Mitchell was already gloved and impatient when Maya arrived at bed 4. He didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her presence, just gestured vaguely at the bedside table. "Set up. Now." Maya placed the tray down and turned to the patient. His name was Robert Chen, according to the chart. 81 years old, admitted for urinary retention. He was small and frail, lost in the hospital bed like a child wearing adult clothes, and his eyes were wide with fear. "Mr. Chen," Maya said softly, moving to his side. "I'm Maya. I'm going to be helping with your procedure today." The old man's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. His grip was surprisingly strong, desperate. "Is it going to hurt?" His voice was barely a whisper. "My wife, she had a catheter before she died. She said it was the worst pain." "Mr. Chen." Maya covered his hand with her own, her voice steady and warm. "I'm going to be honest with you. There might be some discomfort, but I'm going to be right here with you the whole time, and I'm going to make sure Dr. Mitchell is as gentle as possible. Can you trust me?" Something in the old man's face relaxed. His grip loosened. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." "Johnson," Mitchell's voice was sharp. "Sometime today." Maya didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on Mr. Chen, kept her hand on his, until she saw the fear in his eyes fade to something manageable. Then she turned and began assisting with the procedure. 15 minutes later, Mr. Chen was resting comfortably. The procedure had gone smoothly. Mitchell had been rougher than necessary, but Maya had anticipated his movements, had positioned Mr. Chen in ways that minimized the discomfort, had talked the old man through every step. As she disposed of the used supplies, Mitchell spoke. "Not bad, Johnson." Maya looked up, surprised. "Don't let it go to your head." Mitchell was already stripping off his gloves, already moving toward the next patient. "That was a softball. Wait until something real comes through those doors." He walked away without looking back. Maya watched him go, her expression unreadable. Something real. She had no idea how soon those words would come back to haunt him. The clock read 10:31 p.m. when the ambulance radio crackled to life. "Mercy General, this is Unit 27. We're coming in hot. Female overdose victim, mid-20s, unresponsive but breathing. BP is 88/55. Pushed 2 of Narcan. No response. ETA 3 minutes. Patricia grabbed the radio. "Copy, Unit 27. Trauma 2 is standing by." The ER shifted gears. Maya felt the change immediately. The air itself seemed to thicken. Voices sharpened. Movements quickened. This was what emergency medicine was about. This was the razor's edge between life and death. "Johnson," Patricia pointed at her. "Crash cart, trauma 2. If she codes, I need you ready with the paddles." "Yes, ma'am." Maya moved into position, her hands automatically checking the defibrillator. Charged and ready, pads accessible, conduction gel in place. The ambulance bay doors burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in, a gurney between them. On it lay a young woman, pale as paper, her lips tinged blue. She couldn't have been older than 24. Blonde hair matted to her forehead, track marks visible on her arms. "Crystal Thompson," the lead paramedic reported as they transferred her. 24 years old, found by a neighbor who heard screaming from her apartment. Suspected heroin OD. No response to Narcan. She's been down at least 10 minutes. Crystal. Maya filed the name away automatically, her eyes moving between the monitors and the patient. Something felt wrong. Not with the medical situation. That was critical but manageable. Doctor. Mitch the team moving with practiced efficiency around the patient. Something else. A vibration. Maya turned her head toward the main entrance. Big J was rising from his security desk, his hand moving toward his radio. Jerome Jackson was 6'4", 280, a former linebacker who had once tackled a knife-wielding psych patient without breaking a sweat. Maya watched his face change. She had seen that expression before, on soldiers, on combat veterans, on people who suddenly realized that something very, very bad was about to happen. "Dispatch, this is Big J at Mercy General." His voice carried across the ER. "I've got a vehicle approaching the ambulance bay at high speed. It's not an ambulance. Repeat, not an ambulance." Maya stepped away from the crash cart. On the security monitor above the nurse's station, she saw it. A black pickup truck, headlights blazing, tearing through the parking lot at 60 miles an hour. It wasn't slowing down. "Patricia," Maya said. "Not now, Johnson." "Patricia, look." The charge nurse looked up. The truck hit the metal bollards at the ambulance bay entrance like they weren't even there. Metal shrieked. The front end crumpled. Airbags exploded. Steam erupted from the destroyed radiator. For one heartbeat, Everything was still. Then the driver's door exploded off its hinges, and he stepped out. Maya had seen big men before. She had served alongside Delta operators who looked like they were carved from granite. She had faced down Taliban fighters hopped up on whatever cocktail of drugs kept them fighting through wounds that should have killed them. She had never seen anything like this. He was at least 6'7", maybe 6'8". His body was a mass of muscle that seemed to writhe beneath his skin, like something alive was trying to escape. His face was flushed a deep, violent crimson. Veins stood out on his neck and forehead like electrical cables. His eyes were black, not dark brown, black. The pupils blown out so completely that they had swallowed the iris entirely. He stood in the rain for a moment, head tilted back, mouth open in a silent scream. Then he started running. He covered the distance between the truck and the glass doors in seconds. His legs pumped like pistons, each stride eating up yards of concrete. Big J stepped into his path. "Sir, stop right there." "This is a hospital. You can't." The giant didn't slow down. Big J reached for his taser. The giant's arm came around in a backhand swing that connected with Big J's chest before his fingers touched the weapon. The sound was like a car accident. Big J's feet left the ground. He flew backward, arms windmilling, and crashed through the nurse's station. Monitors exploded. The desk collapsed. Big J hit the floor and didn't move. The giant didn't pause. He lowered his shoulder and hit the automatic glass doors. The safety glass, designed to withstand impacts, designed to protect the people inside, exploded into 1,000,000 glittering shards. The giant stepped through the wreckage, glass crunching under his boots, and screamed. "Crystal, where is she? Give her to me!" The ER descended into chaos. Patients scrambled. A mother scooped up her child and ran. An elderly man in a wheelchair tipped over trying to flee. Nurses screamed. Doctors backed away. Dr. Mitchell, the man who had mocked Maya's size not 2 hours ago, was pressed against the wall of the trauma bay, his face white as chalk, holding a metal clipboard in front of his chest like a shield. Maya didn't move. Her training had taken over. That deep programming that kicks in when conscious thought is too slow, when survival depends on instinct honed through years of violence. She assessed. Excited delirium, classic presentation, flushed skin, blown pupils, superhuman strength, apparent immunity to pain. His body had dumped every ounce of adrenaline it had, probably triggered by meth or PCP or both. His core temperature was probably approaching 105 degrees. His organs were cooking themselves. He was dying. But before he died, he was going to kill everyone in his path. "Crystal!" His black eyes locked onto Trauma Bay 2. He started moving. Patricia was standing directly in his path, frozen in shock, her mouth open, her hands still holding an IV line connected to nothing. Maya moved. She didn't think, she just moved. 3 strides. She crossed the distance between herself and Patricia in 3 strides and shoved the older nurse aside just as the giant's reaching hand closed on empty air. Patricia stumbled and fell. The giant's head swung toward Maya. They stared at each other, the 7-foot monster and the 5'3" nurse. The avalanche and the pebble. "Get out of my way!" His voice was barely human, distorted by rage and drugs into something that sounded like grinding machinery. "I don't want to hurt you." Maya's heart was slamming against her ribs. Every survival instinct she possessed was screaming at her to run. She planted her feet. "I can't do that." The giant's face twisted. Confusion first, then rage. "Then you die first." He swung. His fist came around in a haymaker that would have caved in her skull if it connected. It was fast. impossibly fast for something that size. Maya wasn't there. She stepped in, not back, into his guard, under his swing, so close she could smell the chemical stench of drugs pouring off his skin. His fist whistled past her ear. Maya's elbow came up and drove into his solar plexus. Thwack! The giant grunted, stumbled back half a step, looked down at his chest like he couldn't quite understand what had happened. "Patricia!" Maya shouted, without taking her eyes off the giant. "Get the patient out! Back exit, now!" Patricia scrambled to her feet. She grabbed Crystal's gurney and started pushing. The giant saw his prey escaping. He roared. He lunged forward, reaching past Maya, his hand like a shovel coming for the gurney. Maya grabbed his wrist. Her small hand wrapped around a wrist as thick as a fire hydrant. She didn't try to stop him. She couldn't stop a freight train, but she could derail it. She pulled with his momentum, dropped her center of gravity, extended her leg across his path. Osotogari, basic judo, using an opponent's force against them. The giant's feet tangled, his massive body rotated. For one impossible moment, 7 feet of homicidal rage was airborne. He hit the floor with an impact that shook the building. Maya was already backing away, keeping herself between him and the direction Patricia had taken Crystal. "Stay down." The giant pushed himself up. His nose was bleeding now. He looked at Maya with something new in his black eyes. Curiosity. The curiosity of a predator who had just discovered that the rabbit had teeth. "Who are you?" he asked. Maya didn't answer. The giant rose to his full height. He reached down and grabbed a metal IV pole bolted to the floor. One savage yank. The anchor screws screamed as they tore from the concrete. He held the 6-foot pole like a baseball bat. "Doesn't matter," he said. "You're dead anyway." He swung. Maya ducked. The pole whistled over her head. He swung again. This time she wasn't fast enough. The metal base caught her shoulder. Crack. Pain exploded through her arm, white-hot, blinding. She felt something shift inside her clavicle, felt bone grinding against bone. She didn't scream. She couldn't afford to scream. Maya staggered back. Her left arm hung useless at her side. The giant advanced, pole raised for the killing blow. Behind him she saw movement. Big J crawling toward his dropped taser. Dr. Mitchell still cowering. Other staff hiding, crying. Not one of them moving to help. She was alone. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her head. "When you can't run and you can't hide, baby girl, you stand your ground and you fight with everything God gave you." Maya looked at the giant. She looked at the pole descending toward her head. Instead of backing away, she threw herself forward. The pole smashed into the wall behind her. Drywall exploded where her skull had been a half-second earlier. Maya was inside his guard now, pressed against his chest, her injured arm screaming as she fumbled in her pocket. Trauma shears. 8 inches of surgical steel. She drove the blunt handle into the soft tissue under his jaw, into the cluster of nerves at the mandibular angle. The giant gagged. His eyes watered. The pole clattered to the floor. But he didn't drop. His hands came up. They wrapped around Maya's throat. He lifted her off the floor. Maya kicked. Her feet dangled in the air. She clawed at his hands, but it was like clawing at granite. Black spots bloomed in her vision. Her windpipe compressed. "You fight good," the giant rasped, his face inches from hers. "But you're too small." Maya's vision tunneled. The sounds of the ER faded to a high-pitched whine. She was dying. And in that moment, suspended between life and death, a memory surfaced. Desert heat. Sergeant Rodriguez's voice screaming during combatives training. "When you are being choked, you do not pull away. You attack the source. Break the lever." Maya stopped clawing. She let her body go limp. The giant loosened his grip slightly to adjust his hold. Maya jackknifed her body, swung her legs up, wrapped them around his waist, used her core to crunch upward, and slammed her forehead into the bridge of his nose. Cartilage collapsed. Blood exploded. The giant howled. He dropped her. Maya hit the floor, rolled backward, gasped for air. Her throat was on fire. Her shoulder was screaming. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. The giant staggered back, both hands pressed to his ruined face. "Police! Get on the ground!" Officers burst through the shattered doors, weapons drawn. The giant turned toward them, blood streaming between his fingers. Even now, even with his face destroyed, he didn't look afraid. He looked annoyed. Maya saw him tense, saw him preparing to charge. She also saw what the police didn't. Behind the giant, against the wall, the respiratory therapy cart, 4 tanks of compressed oxygen. If the police opened fire, if a bullet passed through, if a single round hit those tanks, everyone in the ER was going to die. Maya pushed herself up. Her vision swam. Her legs felt like rubber. Everything hurt. She started running, not away from the danger, toward it. She hit the lead officer in a flying tackle just as his finger tightened on the trigger. The gun barked once, the shot going wild, punching a hole in the ceiling. "The oxygen!" Maya screamed, pointing. "You'll kill everyone!" The officer's eyes found the tanks. He understood. But the distraction cost them. The giant moved, not toward the police, toward Dr. Mitchell. The handsome doctor finally unfroze. He screamed and tried to run. He wasn't fast enough. The giant's hand closed around his throat, lifted him off the floor. "Nobody move," the giant growled, backing into the corner of the trauma bay. "Nobody moves, or I snap his neck like a twig." The ER went silent. Maya lay on the floor, bleeding, panting, watching the standoff develop. The police had their weapons drawn, but couldn't fire. The giant had a hostage, and somewhere in the back of the hospital, Crystal Thompson was still unconscious, still vulnerable, still the object of this monster's obsession. Dr. Mitchell made a sound, a whimper. His face was turning purple. "Please," he gasped. "Please, I have children." The giant laughed, a broken, horrible sound. "Should have thought about that before you got in my way." Maya pushed herself to her knees. Her shoulder was fractured. Her throat was bruised. Her vision kept swimming in and out of focus. None of that mattered. She looked at the giant, looked at the terrified doctor in his grip, looked at the police officers frozen in their standoff. She thought about her grandmother, about the old woman who had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was 7, about the stories she used to tell, about their ancestors who had survived slavery, survived Jim Crow, survived everything America had thrown at them. "Johnson women don't quit," her grandmother used to say. "We bend, we adapt, we survive. And when we have to, baby girl, we fight like hell." Maya looked at the giant. "Hey!" she called out. The giant's black eyes found her. "You want Crystal?" Maya asked. "Then let the doctor go, and I'll take you to her." The police officers started shouting. The giant's grip tightened on Mitchell's throat. Somewhere behind her, Maya heard Patricia's voice yelling for her to stop. She ignored all of it. "You and me," Maya said, her voice steady. "Nobody else. I know where she is. Let him go, and I'll take you there." The giant stared at her. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his blood-covered face. "Okay, little nurse," he said. "Okay." He dropped Dr. Mitchell. The doctor crumpled to the floor, gasping, clutching his throat. The giant stepped over him and walked toward Maya. "Take me to her," he said, "and if you're lying, if you try anything, I'll tear you apart, piece by piece. Understand?" Maya looked up at him. 7 feet of muscle and madness, a monster in human form. She should have been terrified. Instead, something cold settled into her chest, something she hadn't felt since her last deployment. Since the night her convoy was ambushed and she had to make choices that still haunted her dreams. "I understand," she said. She turned and started walking toward the back of the hospital. The giant followed. Behind them, the police started to move. "Stay back!" Maya shouted without turning around. "Everyone stay back!" She led the giant through the double doors into the radiology wing, into the darkness, into whatever came next. And she knew with absolute certainty that only one of them was going to walk out alive. The radiology wing was dark. Emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow that made the shadows seem alive. Maya walked 3 steps ahead of the giant, her injured arm hanging useless at her side, her heart pounding so loud she was certain he could hear it. "Faster," the giant growled behind her. "Move faster." Maya didn't speed up. Every step was calculated. Every second was borrowed time. She needed to think. She needed a plan. She needed something, anything that could stop 7 feet of drug-fueled rage. "What's your name?" she asked, without turning around. "Shut up and walk." "I'm taking you to Crystal. The least you can do is tell me your name." Silence. Then, grudgingly, "Darnell." "Darnell what?" "Darnell Thompson. Crystal's my girlfriend." Maya filed that away. Thompson. Same last name as Crystal. Either married or lying. "How long have you two been together, Darnell?" 3 years. 3 years I gave her everything, everything. And she tried to leave me. Tried to run away. Like I was nothing. His voice cracked on the last word. Maya heard something beneath the rage. Something broken. Something desperate. "She overdosed, Darnell. She almost died tonight." "Because of me!" Darnell's roar echoed off the walls. "She did that because of me. She'd rather die than be with me. What kind of person does that make me?" Maya stopped walking. She turned around slowly, facing him for the first time since they'd left the ER. In the red emergency lighting, Darnell Thompson looked less like a monster and more like what he actually was. A man falling apart. Tears were streaming down his blood-covered face, mixing with the mess she'd made of his nose. His massive chest was heaving. His hands were shaking. "Darnell?" Maya said quietly. "What happened to you?" "What do you care? You're just trying to stall. You think I'm stupid?" "I think you're in pain. I think something broke inside you a long time ago, and nobody ever helped you fix it." Darnell stared at her. His black eyes, still blown wide from whatever drugs were coursing through his system, seemed to flicker. For just a moment, Maya saw the man he might have been before the drugs, before the rage, before whatever trauma had twisted him into this. "Keep walking," he whispered. But his voice had lost some of its edge. Maya turned and continued down the hallway. Behind her, she heard Darnell's breathing change. Ragged, uneven, the excited delirium was cycling. His body was burning itself out from the inside. If she could keep him talking, keep him moving, maybe the drugs would do what her fists couldn't. Or maybe he'd have a heart attack and die right here in this hallway. Or maybe he'd have a sudden surge of energy and tear her head off. The variables were endless. The odds were terrible. Maya kept walking anyway. They passed a door marked CT scan. Authorized personnel only. Maya's eyes lingered on it for half a second. The CT room had a separate entrance, a back door that led to the main hospital corridor. If she could get Darnell inside, if she could find a way to circle back— "Don't even think about it." Maya's blood went cold. Darnell was right behind her now, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body, close enough that his breath stirred the braids at the back of her neck. "I know what you're doing," he said. "You're looking for an exit, looking for a way to trick me. You think I'm stupid because I'm high? I was a Marine, little nurse. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan before they kicked me out. I know tactics, I know strategy, and I know when someone's trying to play me." Maya's mind raced. A Marine? That explained the speed, the aggression, the tactical awareness even through the drug haze. It also meant he was far more dangerous than she'd initially calculated. "I'm not trying to play you, Darnell. Then why are we going in circles? Crystal was in the ER. You're taking me away from the ER." "Because they moved her. When you crashed through those doors, they evacuated all the critical patients. She's in the backup trauma unit now, through radiology." It was a lie. Maya had no idea where Patricia had taken Crystal. She was making this up as she went, buying seconds, minutes, whatever she could get. "You're lying." "I'm not." "Look at me." Maya turned. Darnell's face was inches from hers. His black eyes bored into her like drill bits. "I can always tell when people are lying," he said. "Crystal used to lie to me all the time. Said she was going to work when she was going to see her friends. Said she loved me when she was planning to leave. I always knew. I always caught her." "Is that why she tried to kill herself tonight, Darnell? Because you caught her too many times?" The words came out before Maya could stop them. Darnell's face twisted. His hand shot out and grabbed her injured shoulder. Maya screamed. The pain was nuclear, white-hot, obliterating. Her knees buckled. If Darnell hadn't been holding her up, she would have collapsed. "Don't you ever talk about her like that!" Darnell was screaming now, spittle flying from his lips. "You don't know her. You don't know us. You don't know what we had." "Darnell, please." "She loved me. She loved me, and then everyone started getting in her head. Her mother, her sister, those cops with their restraining order, everyone trying to take her away from me." Restraining order. The words cut through Maya's pain like a knife. Crystal had a restraining order against Darnell. That meant police involvement. That meant documented abuse. That meant this wasn't a love story gone wrong. This was a predator hunting his prey. "Let go of my shoulder," Maya gasped. "Darnell, let go!" "Why should I? Give me one reason why I shouldn't break every bone in your body right now." Maya looked up at him through tears of pain. "Because if you kill me, you'll never find her. And she'll wake up tomorrow in some hospital bed, and she'll know you're in prison or dead, and she'll be free of you forever. Is that what you want?" Darnell's grip loosened. Maya pulled away, stumbling against the wall, cradling her shoulder. The pain was making her vision swim. She might have made the fracture worse. She might have bone fragments floating around in there now, slicing through muscle and tendon. None of that mattered. All that mattered was the next minute, the next step, the next breath. "This way," Maya said, pushing off the wall. "She's this way." She started walking again. After a moment, Darnell followed. They had been walking for 4 minutes when Maya heard it. Footsteps. Multiple sets, coming from somewhere behind them. The police. They were following, trying to maintain distance, trying not to spook Darnell into doing something violent. It was standard protocol for a hostage situation. Keep eyes on the subject. Wait for an opportunity. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary. Maya needed them to engage. She needed backup, weapons, numbers. She needed anything except being alone in a dark hallway with a man who could snap her neck with one hand. But she also knew that if the police moved too soon, if they spooked Darnell before she could find an advantage, people were going to die. Maybe her. Probably her. "You hear that?" Darnell asked. "Hear what?" "Don't play dumb. They're following us. Your cop friends." "They're not my friends, and they're not going to do anything as long as you have me." "So you admit it. You're a hostage." "I'm a guide. There's a difference." Darnell laughed. It was an ugly sound, devoid of humor. "You've got guts, little nurse. I'll give you that. Most people can't even look at me when I'm like this. They just run and scream and beg. But you look at me like I'm a person." "You are a person, Darnell." "No, not anymore. The drugs burned that out of me a long time ago. I'm just what's left." Maya heard something in his voice that made her slow down. Something that sounded almost like grief. "When did you start using?" she asked. "After I got discharged. Dishonorable. They said I had anger issues. Can you believe that? I gave them 6 years of my life, 2 tours in the sandbox, and they kicked me out because I got in a few fights." "A few fights?" "One guy died, but he started it. He was talking trash about... It doesn't matter. Point is, the military threw me away like garbage. And when I came home, nobody wanted to hire the crazy vet with the dishonorable discharge. So I started self-medicating. Meth at first, then PCP when the meth stopped working. Now I mix them. Keeps me sharp." "It's killing you, Darnell. Your body temperature is through the roof. I can see you sweating. Your heart is probably beating 200 times a minute. If you don't get medical help soon, you're going to have a heart attack." "Good. Maybe that would be better. Maybe we could all just stop." Maya stopped walking. "Darnell, look at me." He stopped. "If you want to die, that's your choice. I can't stop you. But Crystal is still alive. She's alive because the paramedics got to her in time, because the doctors in that ER worked to save her. If you hurt her, if you hurt anyone else tonight, her survival means nothing. She'll spend the rest of her life knowing that people died because of her." "Is that the legacy you want to leave? Is that how you want her to remember you?" Darnell's face contorted. For a moment, Maya thought she had reached him, thought she had found the human being buried beneath the drugs and rage and pain. Then his expression hardened. "You're good," he said. "You almost had me. But I know what you're doing. You're trying to make me weak, trying to make me doubt myself. Crystal's mother used to do the same thing, always talking, trying to get in my head." "Darnell, where is she? Where is Crystal? I'm done walking. I'm done talking. Take me to her right now, or I swear to God I'll kill you and find her myself." Maya's options had just run out. She looked around. They were in the main radiology corridor now. To her left was the MRI suite. To her right was the interventional radiology lab. Ahead was a T-intersection that led to either the main hospital or the loading dock, and behind her was a man who was done negotiating. "She's through there," Maya said, pointing toward the interventional radiology lab. "They set up a temporary trauma unit inside." "Then move." Maya walked toward the double doors. Her mind was racing. The IR lab had equipment, heavy equipment, lead aprons for radiation protection, contrast injectors with pressurized canisters. Maybe something she could use. She pushed through the doors. The room beyond was large and cluttered. A massive C-arm fluoroscopy unit dominated the center of the space. Monitors lined one wall. Supply carts were scattered everywhere, pushed aside by staff who had evacuated in a hurry. No crystal. No backup trauma unit. Just empty space and medical equipment and the dying hope that Maya could find some way out of this alive. "Where is she?" Darnell pushed past Maya, scanning the room. "Where is she?" "She must be in the back. There's a recovery area." "There's nothing here!" Darnell spun around. His face was twisted with rage. All traces of the vulnerable man Maya had glimpsed in the hallway completely gone. "You lied to me." "Darnell, wait!" "You lied to me!" he charged. Maya dove to the side, rolling behind a supply cart as Darnell's fist crashed through the space where her head had been. The cart went flying, scattering surgical instruments across the floor. Maya scrambled to her feet, her injured arm screaming in protest. Darnell was turning, already coming for her again. His eyes were pure black now. The man was gone. Only the monster remained. Maya grabbed the first thing her hand touched, a lead apron folded on the shelf. 20 pounds of radiation shielding. Darnell swung. Maya ducked, then came up swinging the lead apron like a flail. It caught Darnell across the face with a meaty thwack. He staggered. Maya didn't wait. She ran. She made it 3 steps before his hand closed around her ankle. The floor rushed up to meet her. She hit hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Before she could recover, Darnell was on top of her, his weight pressing down, his hands reaching for her throat. "I trusted you," he screamed. "I trusted you, and you lied." Maya's vision was going dark. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. All she could do was fight, scratching, clawing, trying to find any weakness in the mountain of muscle pinning her to the floor. Her hand brushed something metal. A syringe. One of the contrast injectors used for imaging studies. Maya grabbed it. She didn't think, she didn't aim, she just stabbed. The needle sank into Darnell's neck, just below his ear. He screamed and reared back, one hand going to the syringe embedded in his flesh. Maya rolled out from under him, gasping for air. Her throat was on fire. Her arm was numb. Every part of her body was either broken or bruised, or both. But she was alive. Darnell yanked the syringe out of his neck. Blood sprayed across the floor. He looked at it, then at Maya, and his expression shifted from rage to something else entirely. Fear. "What did you do to me?" he whispered. "What was in that needle?" "Iodine contrast," Maya gasped. "About 50 cc's of it, straight into your carotid artery. If you're lucky, it'll just make you dizzy. If you're not, you might have a stroke." She had no idea if that was true. Contrast media wasn't toxic in normal doses, and she had no idea how much she'd actually injected. But Darnell didn't know that, and right now, fear was the only weapon she had left. "You poisoned me." Darnell was swaying now, whether from the drugs or the fear or the actual effects of the contrast, Maya couldn't tell. "You poisoned me just like Crystal tried to poison herself. You're all the same. All of you. Liars and traitors and—" "Police! Don't move!" The doors burst open. Officers flooded in, weapons drawn, flashlights cutting through the dimness. Darnell spun toward them. Maya saw what was about to happen. Saw the officers' fingers tightening on triggers. Saw Darnell tensing to charge. Saw the next few seconds playing out in blood and gunfire and death. "Don't shoot!" Maya screamed. She threw herself between Darnell and the police, arms spread wide, her broken body the only barrier between the monster and the bullets. "Don't shoot! He's unarmed! He needs medical attention!" "Ma'am, get out of the way!
He's having a medical emergency. Look at him. He needs help, not bullets."
The lead officer hesitated. His eyes moved from Maya to Darnell and back again. Darnell was swaying badly now, his hands pressed against his temples. The adrenaline was finally crashing. The drugs were finally letting go. His body was finally paying the price for everything it had been forced to do.
"My head," Darnell mumbled. "My head hurts. Crystal."
"I need to see Crystal." "She's safe, Darnell." Maya's voice was soft now, gentle, the voice she used for frightened patients and dying soldiers. "Crystal is safe. Nobody's going to hurt her. Nobody's going to hurt you. But you need to sit down now. Can you do that for me? Can you sit down?" Darnell looked at her. For a moment, Maya saw him clearly. Not the monster, not the Marine, just a broken man who had lost everything and didn't know how to stop falling. "I just wanted her to love me," he whispered. "That's all I ever wanted." "I know, Darnell. I know." His knees buckled. He went down hard, crashing to the floor like a felled tree. His eyes rolled back in his head. His massive body began to convulse. "Get a crash cart in here, now!" Maya was already moving, already dropping to her knees beside him, already checking his airway. "He's seizing. I need 4 milligrams of lorazepam and cooling blankets. His temperature is critical." The officers stood frozen, uncertain. "Did you hear me? Move!" One of them broke and ran for help. Maya tilted Darnell's head back, protecting his airway as the seizure ripped through his body. Blood was trickling from his nose, from his ears, from the wound in his neck where she'd stabbed him. He was dying. This man who had terrorized an entire hospital, who had nearly killed her twice, who had stalked and abused the woman he claimed to love, was dying right in front of her. And Maya Johnson, 5'3", 110 pounds, the rookie nurse everyone said would wash out in 2 weeks, was fighting to save his life. Because that was the job. Because that was who she was. Because somewhere under all that rage and pain and drugs, there was a human being worth saving. The crash cart arrived. More nurses, more doctors, more hands to help. Maya stepped back, letting the code team take over. Her legs gave out. She slid down against the wall, her body finally surrendering to all the damage she'd forced it to ignore. Her shoulder was throbbing, her throat was bruised, her vision was swimming. But she was alive. And so, for now, was Darnell Thompson. Somewhere in the distance, Maya heard Patricia's voice shouting orders, heard the steady rhythm of CPR, heard the whine of a defibrillator charging. She closed her eyes. She had won, but at what cost? And somewhere in the back of her mind, one question lingered, unanswered and troubling. Where was Crystal Thompson? And did she even know the nightmare was finally over? The code team worked on Darnell Thompson for 11 minutes. Maya watched from her position against the wall, unable to move, unable to look away. Her body had finally stopped obeying her commands. Every muscle screamed, every breath felt like swallowing glass. But she kept her eyes open, kept watching, kept bearing witness to the desperate fight to save the man who had nearly killed her. "Charge to 200. Clear!" The defibrillator whined. Darnell's massive body jerked. "No rhythm. Resume compressions." A young resident was doing chest compressions, his arms pistoning up and down, sweat pouring down his face. CPR on a man Darnell's size was exhausting work. They'd already rotated twice. "Push another epi, and get those cooling blankets on him. His temperature is 106.2. Patricia was running the code. Her voice was steady, professional, all traces of the sharp-tongued charge nurse replaced by cold efficiency. This was what she was trained for. This was where she excelled. Maya watched the monitors. Flatline. Still flatline. The green line refused to dance. "Come on, you son of a bitch," the resident grunted between compressions. "Don't you die on us." Maya found that strange. An hour ago, everyone in this hospital would have been happy to see Darnell Thompson dead. He had terrorized them, hurt them, nearly killed their coworker. And now they were fighting just as hard to save him as they would any other patient. That was the job. That was always the job. "I've got a rhythm." Maya's eyes snapped to the monitor. The flat line had become a weak, irregular heartbeat. Barely there, but present. Sinus Brady at 40. BP is 70/40. He's not out of the woods yet, but he's got a chance. Patricia looked up from the patient. Her eyes found Maya across the room. "Johnson, can you walk?" Maya tried to stand. Her legs buckled immediately. "That's a no," Patricia said. "Somebody get a gurney over here. She needs to be in a bed, not on the floor." "I'm fine," Maya protested weakly. "You have a fractured clavicle, probable tracheal contusions, and God knows what else. You're not fine. You're a patient now." 2 nurses appeared with a gurney. They lifted Maya onto it with gentle hands, careful of her injuries. The ceiling tiles passed overhead as they wheeled her out of the interventional radiology lab. "Wait," Maya said. "Crystal Thompson. The overdose patient, where is she?" "She's stable," one of the nurses replied. "Patricia got her to the backup trauma unit in the East Wing. She's been asking for you." "For me? You saved her life, Maya. Twice. First from the overdose, then from that monster. The whole hospital is talking about it." Maya closed her eyes. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a woman who had made a series of desperate choices and somehow survived. "I need to see her." "You need to see a doctor first." "I need to see Crystal." The nurse hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, but you're getting an X-ray right after. Deal?" "Deal." They changed direction, heading toward the East Wing. The backup trauma unit was a converted conference room pressed into emergency service when the main ER was compromised. Crystal Thompson lay on a portable bed in the corner, an IV drip feeding into her arm, her blonde hair spread across the pillow like a halo. She was awake. Maya's gurney was wheeled alongside Crystal's bed. The 2 women looked at each other for a long moment. Crystal spoke first. "You're the one who stopped him." It wasn't a question. "Yes." They said you're just a nurse. A new one. 3rd shift." "That's right." Crystal's eyes filled with tears. "Why? Why would you risk your life for someone you don't even know?" Maya reached out with her good hand. After a moment's hesitation, Crystal took it. "Because you were my patient," Maya said simply. "And I don't let anyone hurt my patients." Crystal's face crumpled. The tears spilled over, running down her cheeks in steady streams. "I tried to kill myself tonight," she whispered. "I took all the pills I could find because I thought it was the only way to escape him. I've been running for 8 months, changed my address, changed my job, changed my phone number, got a restraining order. None of it mattered. He always found me. He always came back." Maya squeezed her hand. "He can't hurt you anymore, Crystal." "Is he dead?" "No, but he's in custody, and when he wakes up, he's going to be facing charges that will put him away for a very long time." Crystal was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that Maya had been dreading. "What happens when he gets out?" Maya didn't have an answer. She wanted to promise Crystal that everything would be okay. She wanted to tell her that the system would protect her, that justice would prevail, that Darnell Thompson would never be able to hurt her again. But Maya had been in the military. She had seen how often the system failed. She had watched abusers walk free on technicalities. She had attended funerals for women whose restraining orders meant nothing to men determined to destroy them. "I don't know," Maya admitted. "But I know this. You survived tonight. You survived him. And whatever comes next, you don't have to face it alone." Crystal stared at her. "You don't even know me." "I know enough. I know you're strong enough to survive 8 months of being hunted. I know you're brave enough to try to escape, even when escape seemed impossible. And I know you're still here, still breathing, still fighting. That's all I need to know." Crystal's grip on Maya's hand tightened. "What's your name?" "Maya. Maya Johnson." "Maya." Crystal said it like she was tasting the word. "Thank you, Maya. I don't think I'll ever be able to repay you for what you did tonight." "You don't have to repay me. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Promise me you'll keep fighting. Promise me you won't let him win, even from behind bars. Promise me you'll build a life so good, so full, so happy, that his shadow can never touch it." Crystal was crying again, but this time there was something else in her eyes, something that hadn't been there before. Hope. "I promise," she whispered. "I promise." A commotion at the door made both women turn their heads. Dr. Mitchell stood in the doorway, his face pale, his expensive tie askew. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 2 hours. "Johnson," he said. His voice was hoarse. I need to talk to you." Maya looked at Crystal, then back at Mitchell. "Can it wait? I'm with a patient." "It's important." Something in his tone made Maya pause. This wasn't the arrogant, dismissive Dr. Mitchell she had encountered earlier. This was a man humbled, a man confronting something he wasn't sure how to face. "Give me a minute," Maya said to Crystal. The nurses wheeled her gurney toward the door. Mitch stepped aside to let her pass, then fell into step beside her. "Not here," he said quietly. "Somewhere private." They found an empty storage room nearby. Mitchell closed the door behind them and stood there for a long moment, not speaking, not meeting her eyes. "Dr. Mitchell, he had me by the throat." The words came out in a rush. "He had me by the throat and I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was going to die. I thought about my kids, my wife, all the things I never said, never did. And then you told him to let me go. You offered yourself instead. You walked into the dark with a monster because it was the only way to save my life." Mitchell finally looked at her. His eyes were red, wet. "I mocked you," he said. "I called you a diversity hire. I said you wouldn't last 2 weeks. I laughed about it with the residents like you were a joke. And then you saved me. You almost died saving me." Maya didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry," Mitchell continued. "I'm so sorry. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about everything. You're the bravest person I've ever met, and I treated you like garbage." "Dr. Mitchell," "Kevin, please. After tonight, I think you've earned the right to call me Kevin." Maya took a breath. "Kevin, you don't have to apologize." "Yes, I do. I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've saved hundreds of lives. I thought I was a hero, but tonight, when it mattered, when someone was actually trying to kill me, I froze. I hid behind a clipboard and prayed." You fought. You didn't freeze. You didn't hide. You walked straight into hell, and you dragged us all back out." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "How do you do it? How do you stay so calm when everything is falling apart?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "I don't stay calm," she finally said. "I was terrified every second of tonight." My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. I thought I was going to die at least 3 different times. "Then how?" "Training, experience, and a grandmother who taught me that fear is just a feeling, not a command. You can be afraid and still act. You can be terrified and still fight. The fear doesn't control you unless you let it." Mitchell shook his head slowly. "Where did you come from, Maya Johnson?" "South side of Chicago. Raised by my grandmother after my parents died. Joined the Army at 18. Did 6 years, 4 deployments. Got out, got my nursing degree, and ended up here." Military. That explains a lot. It explains some things, not everything. What else is there? Maya thought about her grandmother, about the stories she used to tell, about their ancestors who had survived slavery and Jim Crow and all the violence America had thrown at them, about generations of black women who had no choice but to be strong, who had been forged in fire and had emerged harder than the forces trying to destroy them. "Family," Maya said. "Everything else comes from family." Mitchell nodded slowly. He seemed to be processing everything, trying to fit this new understanding of Maya into the framework of his world. "The hospital board is going to want to talk to you," he said. "The police, too. What you did tonight, it's going to make the news. National news, probably." "I don't want to be on the news. I don't think you'll have a choice. A 5'3" nurse takes down a 7-foot giant? That's the kind of story that writes itself." Maya sighed. "I didn't take him down. I survived him. There's a difference. Either way, you're a hero, whether you want to be or not." Before Maya could respond, the storage room door burst open. A nurse stood there, breathless, her face pale with alarm. "Dr. Mitchell! Maya! You need to come quick!" "What is it?" Mitchell demanded. "It's the giant. Thompson. He's awake." Maya felt her blood turn to ice. "That's impossible. He was in full cardiac arrest 20 minutes ago." "I know, but he's awake now, and he's asking for someone." "Who?" The nurse looked directly at Maya. "You. He's asking for you by name." Maya and Mitchell exchanged glances. "Get me to him," Maya said. "Are you insane? After what he did to you?" "He's restrained, isn't he?" "Yes, but then get me to him. Now!" The nurse hesitated, then nodded. They moved through the hospital corridors as quickly as Maya's gurney would allow. Word had spread. Staff members stopped what they were doing to watch her pass. Some nodded with respect. Others whispered to each other. The ICU where they had taken Darnell was on the 3rd floor. 2 police officers stood guard outside the door. They straightened when they saw Maya approaching. "Ma'am, you can't go in there." "He asked for me." "That doesn't matter. He's a dangerous officer." Maya's voice was steel. "I just spent 2 hours alone with that man. I led him through a dark hospital while he threatened to kill me. I fought him twice, and I'm still breathing. I think I can handle a conversation while he's strapped to a bed." The officers looked at each other. "5 minutes, one of them said finally, "and we're coming in with you." "Fine." They pushed open the door. Darnell Thompson lay on a hospital bed, his massive body secured by padded restraints at the wrists and ankles. He was connected to a dozen monitors. A breathing tube had been removed recently, and his skin was still flushed from the fever that had nearly killed him. But his eyes were open, and they found Maya the moment she entered the room. "You came," he said. His voice was a wreck, raspy and weak. "I didn't think you'd come." Maya gestured for the nurses to wheel her closer. "You asked for me. Here I am." Darnell stared at her for a long moment. There was something different in his eyes now. The black emptiness was gone, replaced by something that looked almost human. "I remember everything," he said. "I remember throwing that security guard. I remember breaking through the doors. I remember grabbing you, choking you, trying to kill you. I remember too. And you still came." "I still came." Darnell's eyes glistened. "Why? Why didn't you let me die? I would have let you die. I tried to kill you, multiple times. Why did you save me?" Maya considered the question. "Because that's not who I am," she finally said. "And because somewhere under all that rage and drugs and pain, I saw a person, a broken person, a person who needed help, not death." Darnell turned his face away. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I was going to kill her," he whispered. "Crystal. I was going to kill her and then kill myself. That was the plan. If I couldn't have her, nobody could." Maya felt sick. "But you stopped me. You made me feel something. When you were looking at me in that hallway, when you were asking me questions, I felt, I don't know, human, maybe, for the first time in months." "Darnell, I'm going to prison. I know that. For a long time, probably. And I deserve it. I deserve worse. But I want you to know something." He turned back to face her. "I'm glad you stopped me. I'm glad Crystal is alive. And I'm glad I didn't kill you. Because you're the first person in a long time who looked at me like I was still a person." Maya didn't know how to respond. "Will you tell her something for me?" Darnell asked. "Will you tell Crystal I'm sorry? I know it doesn't mean anything. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did. But I need her to know. I need her to know that somewhere inside me, underneath everything, there was still a part that loved her. Really loved her. Not the sick, twisted thing I turned it into, but the real thing. The thing that should have let her go a long time ago." Maya nodded slowly. "I'll tell her." "Thank you." Darnell closed his eyes. "You can go now. I needed to say that. I needed someone to hear it." Maya sat there for a moment longer, looking at the man who had nearly ended her life. Then she signaled for the nurses to take her out. As she left the room, she heard Darnell's voice one more time, barely a whisper. "Johnson." She looked back. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. And I'm sorry I didn't see it until you were the one standing over me." Maya didn't respond. She didn't need to. The door closed behind her, separating her from Darnell Thompson forever. In the hallway, Dr. Mitchell was waiting. "What did he say?" Maya looked at him. "He said he was sorry." "Do you believe him?" Maya thought about it for a long moment. "I believe he means it right now. Whether that lasts when the drugs are fully out of his system, when reality sets in, when he's facing years in prison, I don't know. People change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not." "And Crystal? What about her?" "She has a long road ahead of her. Trauma like this doesn't just disappear. But she's alive. She has a chance. That's more than she had a few hours ago." Mitchell nodded slowly. "And you? What about you?" Maya looked down at her broken body, at the sling on her arm, the bruises on her throat, the cuts and scrapes that covered her like a roadmap of violence. "I'm going to heal," she said. "And then I'm going to get back to work." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Mitchell shook his head in wonder. "You really are something else, Maya Johnson." "No," Maya said quietly. "I'm just a nurse. That's all I've ever wanted to be." She closed her eyes as the gurney began to move again, carrying her toward the X-ray room, toward treatment, toward recovery. Behind her, the hospital continued its eternal work, saving lives, losing lives, fighting the endless battle against death and disease and human cruelty. And somewhere in an ICU room, a monster slept, dreaming, perhaps, of the small black woman who had shown him mercy when he deserved none. 6 hours had passed since the nightmare began. Maya lay in a hospital bed on the 4th floor, her left arm immobilized in a proper sling, her throat wrapped in cooling bandages, her body finally surrendering to the exhaustion it had been fighting all night. The X-rays had confirmed what she already suspected: a hairline fracture of the left clavicle, severe contusions to the trachea, 3 cracked ribs she hadn't even noticed during the fight. The doctor who examined her had shaken his head in disbelief. "You should be in surgery right now," he had said. "How are you even walking?" Maya hadn't answered. She knew the answer, but it wasn't something she could explain to someone who had never been in combat. Adrenaline, training, the absolute refusal to stop moving until the mission was complete. Now the adrenaline was gone. The mission was over, and every injury she had ignored was screaming for attention. She drifted in and out of consciousness, her dreams filled with black eyes and massive fists and the sound of breaking glass. Each time she jerked awake, heart pounding, it took her a moment to remember where she was. Safe. Hospital. Alive. A knock at the door pulled her fully awake. "Come in." The door opened, and Patricia Walsh stepped inside. The charge nurse looked different, older somehow. The harsh lines around her mouth had softened. Her eyes, usually sharp with judgment, held something Maya had never seen there before. Respect. "You're awake," Patricia said. "Barely." Patricia walked to the chair beside Maya's bed and sat down heavily. She didn't speak for a long moment, just sat there, her hands folded in her lap, staring at the floor. "I've been a nurse for 31 years, Patricia finally said. "I've seen things that would give most people nightmares for life. I've watched people die. I've watched people come back from the dead. I've held babies who took their first breath and grandmothers who took their last." She looked up at Maya. "I have never seen anything like what you did tonight." Maya shifted uncomfortably in the bed. "I just did what needed to be done." "No. You did what nobody else could do. You did what nobody else was willing to do." Patricia's voice cracked slightly. "When that monster came through those doors, I froze. Me, 31 years of experience, and I stood there like a statue while he came for my patient. If you hadn't pushed me out of the way." "Patricia, don't. Let me finish." Patricia's eyes were glistening now. "I've been hard on you since you got here. I've been hard on every traveler nurse who comes through my ER. Most of them can't cut it. Most of them wash out within a month. I assumed you'd be the same. I assumed you were just another quota hire who couldn't handle the pressure. I know what you assumed. I was wrong." The words came out like they cost Patricia something precious. "I was so wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every snide comment, every dismissive look, every time I made you feel like you didn't belong here." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I almost died tonight. Because you almost died saving me. Because life is too short for grudges and too precious for pride." Patricia reached out and took Maya's uninjured hand. "You belong here, Maya Johnson. You belong anywhere you damn well please, and if anyone ever tells you different, you send them to me." Maya felt something loosen in her chest, something she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. "Thank you, Patricia." "Don't thank me. I didn't do anything except get in the way." Patricia squeezed her hand, then stood up. "There's someone else here to see you. Several someones, actually. The hospital board wants to talk to you. The police want your statement. And there's a reporter from Channel 7 who's been camping in the lobby for the past 3 hours. I don't want to talk to reporters. I told them that. They don't seem to care. Patricia walked toward the door, then paused. There's one more person. He's been waiting since they brought you up here. Says he won't leave until he talks to you. Who? Big J. Jerome Jackson. The security guard that monster threw through the nurse's station. Maya's heart clenched. Is he okay? Fractured jaw, concussion. He'll be eating through a straw for the next 6 weeks. Patricia's expression softened. But he's alive, and he says that's because of you. That's not true. I'll send him in. Patricia left before Maya could argue. A minute later, the door opened again. Big J looked terrible. His jaw was wired shut, held together by metal brackets that gleamed under the hospital lights. His face was swollen, bruised in shades of purple and yellow that made him look like an abstract painting. He moved slowly, carefully, like every step cost him effort. But his eyes were bright, alert, alive. He pulled a small whiteboard from under his arm, the kind hospitals give to patients who can't speak. He scribbled something and held it up. You saved my life. Maya shook her head. I didn't. You were already down when I got there. Big J erased the board and wrote again. I saw the video. Security camera. You stood in front of him, took the heat off me, gave them time to drag me away. Maya hadn't known there was video. She hadn't thought about cameras at all during those desperate minutes. I was just trying to buy time. I didn't have a plan. Big J wrote more. That's what heroes say. I've played football my whole life. I've seen bravery, never seen anything like you. He lowered the board and just looked at her. His eyes said what his wired jaw couldn't. Big J. He held up a finger, then wrote one more thing. My mom wants to meet you. She says God sent her an angel. I told her angels are usually taller. Despite everything, Maya laughed. It hurt her ribs, but she couldn't help it. Big J's eyes crinkled. He was smiling too, even though his face couldn't show it. He walked over to her bed, bent down slowly, and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. Then he straightened, gave her a salute that would have made any drill sergeant proud, and walked out. Maya wiped her eyes. She was still wiping them when the next visitor arrived. Dr. Kevin Mitchell entered without knocking. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. His clothes were rumpled, his hair was a mess, and there were dark circles under his eyes that aged him by a decade. But he was carrying something. A folder. The hospital board had an emergency meeting, he said without preamble. They've made a decision about your employment status. Maya's stomach dropped. Already? When a hospital makes national news for a violent incident, the board moves fast. They have to get ahead of the story, control the narrative. So what's the verdict? Am I being fired? Blamed for something? Mitchell stared at her. Fired? Maya, they want to give you a medal. He opened the folder and pulled out a document. Effective immediately, you're being offered a permanent position as a senior trauma nurse, full benefits, top of the pay scale, and they're naming the new trauma wing after you. Maya couldn't process what she was hearing. The new trauma wing? The hospital has been planning an expansion for years. The board just approved it this morning. They're calling it the Maya Johnson Trauma Center. They want you to cut the ribbon at the groundbreaking ceremony next month. That's insane. Is it? You saved at least a dozen lives tonight. You prevented a mass casualty event. You subdued a violent attacker without using lethal force. The board sees you as the face of everything Mercy General should stand for. Maya looked at the document in Mitchell's hand. What about Crystal Thompson? What happens to her? She's being transferred to a long-term care facility this afternoon. Psychiatric evaluation, trauma counseling, the works. The hospital is covering all her expenses. It's the least we can do. And Darnell? Mitchell's expression darkened. He's stable. The police have him under 24-hour guard. When he's medically cleared, he'll be transferred to county lockup to await trial. They're charging him with attempted murder, aggravated assault, destruction of property, and about a dozen other things. His lawyer is talking about an insanity defense, but the prosecutor says she has enough to put him away for 30 years minimum. Maya nodded slowly. Good. You don't sound happy. I'm not. None of this should have happened. Crystal should never have been in danger. Darnell should have gotten help years ago, before the drugs and the rage consumed him.
The system failed everyone tonight.
The system didn't fail, Mitchell said quietly. The system was you. You were the one who held everything together when it all fell apart. Maya looked away. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like someone who got lucky. Lucky? Mitchell laughed bitterly. You call what happened to you lucky? You have a fractured collarbone, cracked ribs, and bruising so severe around your throat that the doctors were worried about delayed airway swelling. You fought a man twice your size and 3 times your weight. You almost died multiple times. That's not luck. That's something else entirely. What would you call it? Mitchell thought about it. Courage. The real kind. Not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. Maya was quiet for a long moment. My grandmother used to say something like that. She said fear is just a feeling, not a command. Smart woman. She was the smartest person I ever knew. She raised me after my parents died. Taught me everything about being strong, about never giving up, about standing your ground when the world is trying to knock you down. She sounds incredible. She was. Maya's voice caught. She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. She fought it for 18 months, never complained once. On her last day, she held my hand and told me she was proud of me, that I was going to do great things, that Johnson women always do. Mitchell was silent. When he spoke again, his voice was soft. I think she was right. A knock at the door interrupted them. A young nurse poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation downstairs. The media is getting aggressive. They're trying to get into the building. Security is overwhelmed. Mitchell cursed under his breath. I'll handle it. Maya, get some rest. You've earned it. He left, and Maya was alone again. But not for long. 10 minutes later, another knock.
I told you, I don't want to see any reporters.
I'm not a reporter. The voice was female, young, familiar somehow. Come in. The door opened, and Crystal Thompson stepped inside. She was wearing a hospital gown, an IV pole wheeling alongside her, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked fragile, haunted, but there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Determination. They told me you were up here, Crystal said. I had to see you before they transferred me. You should be resting. So should you, Crystal smiled weakly. But here we are. She walked slowly to Maya's bedside and sat down in the chair Patricia had vacated. I keep thinking about what you said, about building a life so good that his shadow can never touch it. I meant it. I know. That's why I'm here. Crystal took a deep breath. I've spent the last 8 months hiding, running, trying to disappear. I thought if I could just get away from him, everything would be okay. But it's not about getting away, is it? It's about getting strong. Both, Maya said. You need both. Distance and strength. Safety and healing. That's what I'm going to do. The counselors at the facility, they're going to help me. And when I'm better, when I'm stronger, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to volunteer, Help other women like me. Women who think they're alone, who think there's no way out. Maya felt tears prickling at her eyes. That's beautiful, Crystal. It's because of you. You showed me what strength looks like. Not the big muscles and the loud voices. The quiet kind. The kind that stands up when everyone else runs away. Crystal reached out and took Maya's hand. I'm going to name my first daughter after you. Maya. It means illusion in Sanskrit. Did you know that? But I think it means something else now. I think it means the small thing that turns out to be bigger than everything. Maya couldn't speak. The tears were flowing freely now. Crystal stood up, leaned over, and hugged her gently, careful of her injuries. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for being real when everything else felt like a nightmare. Then she was gone, her IV pole clicking softly as she walked out. Maya lay there, staring at the ceiling, her chest tight with emotions she couldn't name. The door opened one more time. This time it was a police officer, a detective by the look of her. Middle-aged, sharp-eyed, with a badge clipped to her belt and a notepad in her hand. Maya Johnson? That's me. Detective Sarah Chen, Chicago PD. I need to take your formal statement about the events of tonight. Are you up for that? Maya wiped her eyes. Do I have a choice? Not really, but I can come back in an hour if you need more time. No. Let's do it now. I want to get it over with. Detective Chen pulled up a chair and clicked her pen. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything you remember. Maya took a deep breath, and she began to talk. She told the detective about her first 3 shifts at Mercy General, about the whispers and the mockery, about Dr. Mitchell's jokes and Patricia's coldness. She told her about the moment the truck crashed through the bollards, about Big J going down, about the glass doors exploding inward. She told her about the fear, the absolute paralyzing terror of facing something that shouldn't exist. The moment she decided to step forward instead of back. She told her about the fight, every punch, every throw, every desperate grab for survival. She told her about being choked, about the headbutt, about the syringe she'd stabbed into Darnell's neck. She told her about leading him through the dark hospital, about the conversations they'd had, about the glimpses of humanity she'd seen beneath the monster. And she told her about the end, about standing between Darnell and the police, about watching him fall, about the code team fighting to save the life of a man who had nearly ended hers. When she finished, Detective Chen was staring at her with an expression Maya couldn't read. That's quite a story, the detective said. It's not a story. It's what happened. I know. We have most of it on security footage. Chen shook her head. In 22 years on the force, I've never heard anything like this. You should be dead. By all rights, you should be dead 3 times over. I know. But you're not. No, I'm not. Chen closed her notepad. For what it's worth, Ms. Johnson, you're the bravest person I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people. I don't feel brave. I feel tired. That's how you know it's real. Chen stood up. Get some rest. The DA might want to talk to you before the trial, but that's months away. For now, just focus on healing. She walked to the door, then paused. One more thing, off the record. What? My sister was in an abusive relationship for years. Her ex-husband put her in the hospital twice before she finally got out. She always said the hardest part wasn't the violence. It was feeling like no one saw her. No one cared. Chen's eyes met Maya's. You saw Crystal Thompson tonight. You cared. That matters more, you know. Then she was gone. Maya lay in the silence, watching the first rays of dawn creep through the window blinds. A new day. She was alive to see it. And somewhere in this broken world, that was enough. 8 weeks later, Maya Johnson walked through the front doors of Mercy General Hospital for the first time since that night. Her left arm was still in a lighter sling, the fracture healing but not yet fully mended. The bruises on her throat had faded to faint yellow shadows. The cracked ribs still ached when she breathed too deeply or laughed too hard. But she was walking. She was breathing. She was alive. The automatic doors whispered open and Maya stopped. The lobby was packed. Doctors, nurses, administrators, security guards, janitors, kitchen staff. Every person who worked at Mercy General seemed to be crammed into the space, standing in rows that stretched back toward the elevators. They were all looking at her. For a moment, Maya thought something was wrong. An emergency. A code. Something that required all hands on deck. Then Big J stepped forward from the crowd. His jaw was still wired, but the swelling had gone down. He was holding a sign above his head, hand-painted in bright blue letters. "Welcome back, hero!" The crowd erupted. Applause thundered through the lobby. People were cheering, whistling, stamping their feet. Someone had brought balloons. Someone else had made a banner that read, "Maya Johnson, the Giant Slayer." Maya felt her face flush. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. She had never been comfortable with attention, and this was more attention than she had ever experienced in her life. Patricia Walsh pushed through the crowd and grabbed Maya's good arm. "Don't you dare run," she said, her voice gruff, but her eyes warm. "You earned this. Now smile and wave like the damn hero you are." "Patricia, I can't." "You can." "You will. Now move." Patricia pulled her forward into the crowd. Hands reached out to touch her shoulders, pat her back, squeeze her fingers. Voices called her name. Faces blurred past, all of them smiling, all of them proud. Dr. Mitchell appeared at her side, looking more like a human being than he had ever looked before. He had shaved. He was wearing a clean white coat, and his eyes held none of the arrogance that had defined him 8 weeks ago. "The board is waiting for you in the conference room," he said. "But first, there's someone who wants to say something." He gestured toward the front of the crowd, where a small platform had been set up with a microphone. An elderly woman was standing there. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and skin the color of dark coffee. She was wearing a purple dress and clutching a cane with both hands. Maya's heart stopped. "Grandma?" The word slipped out before she could stop it. The elderly woman wasn't her grandmother. Her grandmother had been dead for 3 years. But the resemblance was so striking, so immediate, that for a moment Maya had been transported back to her childhood in Southside Chicago. The woman smiled. "No, baby, I'm not your grandma. But I knew her." Maya walked toward the platform, the crowd parting before her like water. "Who are you?" "My name is Eleanor Williams. Your grandmother and I grew up together in Mississippi before she moved north. We lost touch for many years, but I followed her life from afar. I followed yours, too, after she passed." Eleanor reached out and took Maya's hand. "Ruthie always said you were special. She said you had fire in your blood. She said one day the whole world would see what she saw." Eleanor's eyes glistened. "She was right, baby. She was right all along." Maya couldn't speak. The tears were coming too fast. "I came here today to give you something," Eleanor continued. "Something Ruthie gave me a long time ago, for safekeeping. She told me to wait until you did something that proved who you really were." Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. "I think tonight qualifies." Maya took the box with trembling hands. She opened it. Inside was a ring, A simple gold band with a small diamond, worn smooth by decades of wear.
That was your great-grandmother's wedding ring, Eleanor said. She wore it through slavery, through freedom, through Jim Crow, through the March on Selma. She wore it every day of her life, and when she died, she passed it to her daughter, who passed it to Ruthie, who passed it to me. Maya stared at the ring. It's been in your family for 5 generations, Eleanor said. 5 generations of strong black women who refused to break, no matter what the world threw at them. Ruthie wanted you to have it. She wanted you to remember where you came from. Maya slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. She looked up at Eleanor, then at the crowd surrounding her, then at the hospital that had become her battlefield and her home. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for keeping it safe. Eleanor pulled her into a hug. Thank you for being exactly who Ruthie knew you would be. The ceremony that followed was a blur. The hospital board presented Maya with a plaque, a bonus check, and the official offer of her permanent position. The mayor of Chicago sent a video message congratulating her on her bravery. The governor's office called during the ceremony to inform her that she was being nominated for the state's Medal of Honor. Through it all, Maya stood on the platform, her great-grandmother's ring warm on her finger, her eyes scanning the crowd. She saw Patricia standing in the back, wiping her eyes when she thought no one was looking. She saw Big J, his sign still held high, his wired jaw somehow managing to convey a smile. She saw Dr. Mitchell, standing apart from the other doctors, watching her with an expression she could only describe as reverence. And she saw someone else, a young woman standing near the exit, blonde hair pulled back, wearing civilian clothes instead of a hospital gown. Crystal Thompson. Their eyes met across the crowded lobby. Crystal raised her hand in a small wave. Maya nodded back. Then Crystal turned and walked out the door into the sunlight, into the rest of her life. Maya smiled. That was the real reward, not the plaques or the medals or the money. Seeing Crystal Thompson walk out of this hospital on her own 2 feet, free from the monster who had tried to destroy her, that was worth everything. The ceremony ended, and the crowd began to disperse. Maya was immediately surrounded by well-wishers, people wanting to shake her hand, take photos, share their own stories of survival and courage. She smiled and nodded and accepted their gratitude, but her mind was elsewhere. You okay? Dr. Mitchell had appeared at her side. I'm fine, just overwhelmed. That's understandable. You want to get out of here? I can show you the new trauma wing. The construction started last week. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Sure, lead the way. They slipped out a side door, leaving the chaos of the lobby behind. Mitchell led her through a series of corridors she had never seen before, toward the east wing of the hospital, where construction crews were already at work. It's going to be state-of-the-art, Mitchell said as they walked. 20 trauma bays, dedicated OR suites, a helipad on the roof for air ambulances. The whole thing should be finished within 2 years. And they're really naming it after me? The Maya Johnson Trauma Center. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Maya shook her head. It's too much. I didn't do anything that any other nurse wouldn't have done. Mitchell stopped walking and turned to face her. That's not true, and you know it. Plenty of other nurses were there that night. Plenty of other people saw what was happening. You were the only one who stepped forward. You were the only one who fought, because someone had to. Exactly. Someone had to. And you were that someone. Mitchell's voice softened. That's what heroes are, Maya. Not people who are born special. Just ordinary people who step up when stepping up matters most. Maya looked at him for a long moment. You've changed, Kevin. Have I? 8 weeks ago, you were making jokes about me in the break room, calling me a diversity hire, betting on how long I would last. Mitchell winced. I know. I was an ass. I've been an ass for most of my career, if I'm being honest. But watching you that night, watching you face something that terrified everyone else, it made me realize how small I've been living, how petty, how afraid. Afraid of what? Of everything. Of failing. Of being ordinary. Of not living up to the image I'd created for myself. He laughed bitterly. I became a doctor because I wanted to be a hero. I wanted people to look at me the way they look at you. But I never earned it. I just expected it to be given to me because of my degree and my title. It's not too late, Kevin. You can still become the doctor you wanted to be. Maybe. If someone like you can give me another chance. Maya extended her hand. Consider this your second chance, Dr. Mitchell. Don't waste it. He took her hand and shook it firmly. I won't. I promise. They continued walking, eventually reaching a large window that overlooked the construction site. Workers in hard hats were moving about, operating heavy machinery, laying the foundation for the new wing. There's something else I need to tell you, Mitchell said. About Darnell Thompson. Maya tensed. What about him? He had his preliminary hearing yesterday. The judge denied bail. He's going to be held without bond until the trial. Good. There's more. The prosecution is pushing for attempted murder charges, not just assault. They're saying he came to this hospital with the intent to kill Crystal. If they can prove premeditation, he's looking at life without parole. Maya nodded slowly. What about the insanity defense? His lawyers are trying, but the prosecution has video evidence of him making tactical decisions during the attack. The way he took you as a hostage, the way he used the doctor as a shield, the way he navigated the hospital. They're arguing that someone truly insane couldn't have been that strategic. He was lucid, at least partially. I talked to him in that hallway. He knew what he was doing. He was just too far gone to stop himself. Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Do you think he deserves life in prison? Maya thought about it. She thought about Darnell's hands around her throat, about the terror she had felt as her vision faded to black, about Crystal Thompson swallowing pills because death seemed better than another day of being hunted. She thought about Darnell's tears in the ICU, about his apology, about the broken man she had glimpsed beneath the monster. I think he deserves to never hurt anyone again, she finally said. Whether that's prison or a psychiatric facility, I don't know. That's for the courts to decide. But I know this. Crystal Thompson deserves to live her life without fear. She deserves to know that the man who terrorized her can never reach her again. And what do you deserve, Maya? She turned away from the window. I deserve to get back to work. I've been away too long. Mitchell smiled. Then let's go. Your patients are waiting. They walked back toward the ER together. Maya's first shift back was surprisingly normal. No giant bursting through the doors, no life-or-death confrontations, just the steady rhythm of emergency medicine. A heart attack, 2 car accidents, a teenager with a broken arm from skateboarding, an elderly woman with pneumonia. Maya moved through her duties with the same quiet efficiency she had always shown. She checked vitals, started IVs, comforted frightened patients, assisted doctors with procedures. She did the work she had trained for, the work she had come to Mercy General to do. But something was different. The whispers had stopped, the dismissive looks had vanished. When Maya walked through the ER, people nodded at her with respect. When she gave orders, they were followed without question. When she spoke, people listened. She had earned her place.
At 11:47 p.m., almost exactly 8 weeks after the night that had changed everything, Maya took a break in the staff lounge. She poured herself a cup of terrible hospital coffee and sat down in the corner, her body aching, but her spirit light. The door opened, and a young woman walked in. She was new. Maya could tell by the nervous way she carried herself, by the 2 big scrubs, by the traveler badge clipped to her chest. She looked terrified. "You must be the new nurse," Maya said. The young woman jumped. "Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm Jessica Martinez. This is my first shift." "I know, I saw your name on the schedule." Maya gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit down, have some coffee. It tastes like motor oil, but it keeps you awake." Jessica sat down hesitantly. "You're her, aren't you? Maya Johnson. The one who got lucky 8 weeks ago. Yes." "That's not what everyone says. They say you're a hero. They say you fought a giant and won." Maya sipped her coffee. "You know what I was doing on my 3rd shift here? I was getting yelled at by the charge nurse for hovering over patients. I was getting mocked by the doctors for being too small. I was wondering if I had made a mistake coming to this hospital." Jessica's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really. This job is hard, Jessica. It breaks people. It will try to break you, too. There will be days when you want to quit, days when you feel like you don't belong, days when the whispers and the looks and the casual cruelty make you question everything." Maya leaned forward. "But here's what I want you to remember. You belong here. You earned your place, and anyone who tells you different, anyone who tries to make you feel small or insignificant, they don't know what they're talking about." Jessica was staring at her with something like hope. "How do you do it? How do you stay so strong?" Maya thought about her grandmother, about Eleanor Williams and the ring that now sat on her finger, about 5 generations of Black women who had refused to break. "I come from a long line of strong women," she said. "They taught me that strength isn't about size or muscles or loud voices. It's about getting up every time life knocks you down. It's about standing your ground when the world wants you to run. It's about doing the right thing, even when the right thing is hard." She reached out and put her hand on Jessica's shoulder. "You have that strength too, Jessica. I can see it. You just haven't needed to use it yet. But when the time comes, when life tests you, you'll find it, I promise." Jessica's eyes were wet. "Thank you, Maya. I needed to hear that. That's what we do here. We take care of each other. We lift each other up. We're a team, even when it doesn't feel like it." The door burst open, and Patricia's voice cut through the moment. "Johnson, Martinez, break's over. We've got a multi-vehicle accident coming in. All hands on deck." Maya stood up immediately, her fatigue forgotten. "That's our cue. Ready for your first trauma?" Jessica swallowed hard, then nodded. "Ready. Then let's go save some lives." They ran out of the lounge together, into the chaos, into the noise, into the beautiful, terrifying dance of emergency medicine. Maya Johnson, 5'3", 110 pounds, the rookie who everyone said would wash out in 2 weeks, led the way. Behind her, a new generation followed. The legacy continued. And somewhere, in a place beyond this world, Ruthie Johnson smiled down at her granddaughter, proud of the woman she had become. That is the incredible true story of Maya Johnson. In a world that constantly told her she was too small, too quiet, and too black to matter, she proved them all wrong. She faced a monster twice her size and 3 times her weight, and she won. Not through brute strength, but through courage, intelligence,
and the unbreakable will she inherited from 5 generations of strong black women. Darnell Thompson was a force of nature, but Maya Johnson was a force of will. She saved Crystal Thompson from a nightmare. She saved Big J from death. She saved Dr. Mitchell from his own cowardice. She saved an entire hospital from terror. And she reminded us all that heroes don't always come in the packages we expect. Sometimes the smallest person in the room is the one with the biggest heart. Sometimes the quietest voice speaks the loudest truth. And sometimes, when a giant comes through the door looking for blood, the only thing standing between him and destruction is a 5'3" black nurse who refuses to back down. Maya Johnson didn't just survive that night. She became a legend. And legends never die.